Welcome to the NPTEL MOOCs live session for this course, Environment and Development. Thank you all for uh, enrolling for this course, and I hope you will stay tuned into the course all throughout. Now, I have a couple of query, and before taking that, please also log in and simultaneously you can uh, post your questions. I'll be happy to answer that. So what I do now is another 5 or 10 minutes, try to quickly be very brief about what we have done so far in the past few weeks. Now this course start out to engage upon looking at uh, environment and development, and we have also look into familiarizing ourselves with some of the concepts pertaining to environment. And since we all live in a very close interactions with the natural environment that has not only shaped our cultural identity, value systems and economic well-being, but also broadly how the environment has influenced our worldview. And perhaps alongside we have what we understood as development, which again uh, happens to uh, have an impact not just on the human society but also the environment. So development as a process, as we all know, creates a kind of growth, progress, and also a positive change, or the additions of the physical, economic, or the environmental, social, and demographic components. And here environment again plays an important role in the uh, well-being and pursuit the healthy living of the human beings. And environment to a large extent matters because it is not only the home of that human have inhabited, because it also provide uh, significant uh, resources, namely the food and other needs to human beings. So therefore, the life support systems of which human receive to a large extent depends on the well-being of the environment factors. So therefore, we often try to engage upon looking at to what extent environment has influenced human being, or can be afford to survive or live without the environment. So by keeping this in mind, we also look into the various debates and then the very context of development, how we intersect with the idea that is the perceptions, representations, and the connections between human society and the environment in every successive stages of human and the societal development in particular. So we have also looked upon the different stages of evolution, and every successive stages of society have in some way engaged in trying to maintain a relationship with nature, or in other words we can say that the material development have to a large extent engage upon the appropriations of nature in space and time. And one of the main point which this course also tries to engage with is that development should not lead to any kind or any forms of environmental degradations and destructions. So therefore, the element of sustainable development or sustainability is also one of the main thrust of this particular course, by beginning with the famous Brandon report, which is entitled as Our Common Future, which was initiated in 1987, way back in 1987, which argued that the development process should be aimed at meeting the needs of the present generations without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. So therefore, sustainable development in some way is also one of the debate vis-a-vis environment, which we will definitely look into. And as we go on with the course, we also tries to familiarize ourselves with the idea of environmentalism, and the whole idea of environmentalism began in the US. How the whole concept of preservation of the wilderness, or in other words, the wilderness thinking, to a large extent shape our notions of this environmentalism. So therefore, there was also a query that why is it at all for us to go back to look at the environmental and the American environmentalist movement rather than engaging with the present environmentalism. Yeah, no doubt that that's a very valid and important question. But the idea is that one needs to historicize these old notions of environmentalism, the first wave, second wave, and then it goes on. So therefore, to ground no argument, and then one needs to go back where this whole idea of environmental thinking or wilderness thinking has emerges. So therefore, I feel that it is important to go back and then historically locate how this whole environmental movement has emerged. So this environmentalism, to a large extent, can be about claiming that things other than humans and also the natural environment as a whole are important, and therefore one needs to take into considerations about the morality of the political, economic, and also other social policies. So therefore, the two important concepts emerges from here. That is, on the one hand, the idea of anthropocentrism, and on the other hand, we have the idea of biocentrism. So one of the defining features of anthropocentrism is that it tries to or considers the moral obligations humans have to the environment, that is to derive from obligations that humans have to each other, and less crucially to the future generations of humans, rather than any obligations to other living things or to the environment as a whole. Therefore, human obligations to the environments are thus indirect in nature. And anthropocentrism also is based on the idea of where human is perceived to be the center of the universe, and thereby having overriding powers or the power to exploit other species. So in contrast to anthropocentrism, biocentrism by and large claims that nature has an intrinsic moral worth that does not necessarily depend on its usefulness to human beings, and it is this intrinsic worth that gives rise directly to obligations to the environment, and humans are therefore morally bound to protect the environment, as well as individual creatures and species for their own sake. So in this sense, biocentrics views human beings and other elements of the natural environment, both living and often non-living, as member of a single moral and ecological community. So we have also, look into how Russell Carson's, a book, Silent Spring, which was published way back in 1962, has brought to the public attention the various dangers of environmental pollutions, and that seminal work to a large extent has evoked a new paradigm of thinking with regards to the environmentalism in general. So therefore, the post 1960s sees a lot of changes in terms of different policies with regards to the environment in different countries. So one can also see that the various nuances in terms of how environmentalism has been debated in the pre-1960s. So then we move on to looking at some of the debates, mostly environmentalism that prevails in the global south, which is totally different from what it used to be in the global north. Because in the global south, mostly the developing world, we have witnessed that a resource exploitation is largely geared to meet the very basic needs of food, or fuel wood and shelter for large sections of the deprived societies. Whereas on the other hand, northern environmentalism, where more heavily on the social movement organizations, mostly by some of the the elitist organizations, where in the formal organizations like the Sharia Club or the Friends of the Art, and these forms of movement that is, for instance, the wilderness movement in the north originates outside the production process, and then therefore it tries to aims for a change in attitudes, particularly towards the natural world, rather than the change in the systems of productions or distributions. So therefore, in opposition to this, in the environmentalism of the because the environmentalism of the poor originates as a class over productive resources in southern movements. So therefore, in this movement in the global environmentalism in the global south, particularly looks into the issues of ecology, and which are often interlinked with the questions of human rights, ethnicity, and distributed justice. So the movement for environmental justice are mostly led by the marginalized, the pigeons, and who are not concerned with the overburdens, but with the environmental hazards and social and economic inequalities that ravage their communities. So one very important contradictory point, the epitaph which goes is that in the northern environmentalists, it tries to espouse the idea of no humanity without nature, whereas in the global south it was no nature without social justice. So therefore there is an opposing ideas which can be perhaps linked to these ideas. And we have also looked into some of the approaches to the environment, like ecofeminism and eco-Marxism, and we have also looked into how this idea of nature cultures, how these binaries are being created based on the Western scientific thinking, and also tries to associate and look into how materialism and natures are located from its historical vantage point, basing on Marx's understanding. And we have also moved on to, trying to engage into the various environmental ethics, which also looks into how the ideas are being shared. So many of you are, uh, been asking about whether I should and when should I be sharing about the transcript and the lecture slides for this course. I'll be in touch with my TS, and I'll definitely also speak with some of the people who are there in the NPTEL center, so that they can upload some of the transcripts which are being already done, and also if need be, if the lecture slides can be uploaded. So in fact, if you attentively listen to some of the lectures and then follow the week-wise lectures regularly, I do not feel that an extra reading of that such is required for this course, and particularly the weekly assignments is not something which is different from or outside the syllabi or something, so which is there very much within the course lectures and within that particular content. So I'm sure it shouldn't be a problem, and the weightage of the nature of this exam would be multiple choice questions and not descriptive, and the weekly assignments constitute around 25%, and 75% would be the final exam. So therefore, one should also be regularly, be doing or submitting the weekly assignment. So that way, it shouldn't affect the overall grade at the end. So therefore, I'll try to look into some of the queries which you have posted about the transcripts and then the lecture slides. So I'll be in touch with people who are dealing with this and try to upload as soon as possible. Thank you so much, and we will meet up again after a couple of weeks or so, and please feel free to drop in any queries or questions as and when you want to, and I'll be happy to respond to it. Thank you. All the best.